Why does it make that voice?
No recording.
Not recording.
What's
One
going
nil
on,
New
everybody? Tello Talk Podcast back once again. I've got my two buddies, Cameron and Michael, once again. This time we're switching it up. We're doing the NFL, other than last time it was college football. Um, I know these two, they know a lot more about the NFL than they do college. If you watch the college one, you would tell. Um,
You didn't edit
Shut
that. You
up.
didn't edit the college one, did you?
no,
No, he
man.
didn't.
You didn't
I
edit it at
listened to it.
all. You
He
listen.
didn't edit it. I listened to it. There was no edits at all.
Oh Lord.
Yep.
Well,
They even heard the conversation of us talking if it was still recording when there were problems.
But
that's so bad, but so good at the same time.
But they know more about the NFL. Cameron knows a lot more. Michael, um, he's a Raiders fan, so he clearly doesn't know much about the NFL.
Yeah, you're a
Um,
Saints fan. What are they 1-2 now? You didn't.
you're the only 0-3 team in the
You're
league.
the only 0-3 team in the league.
Yeah,
But
we're gonna come back 13-3.
none of that. None of that. First of all, there's 17 games, but we're gonna move on. We're gonna get into what we're actually doing today. We're doing our top 16s. We were planning on doing this last week, and then obviously I had my interview with Coach Eck. Um, So then I didn't do this with them last week. So we kind of just made sure that I didn't have 3 podcast episodes in the same week. So I pushed it back. And I mean, hey, here we are. We had another full week of games. Pretty good week of games too. I think a lot of them were pretty interesting, pretty entertaining. Um, but
I'd
I
say
don't know.
so.
I don't think we're gonna get into it real quick. We're going to just kind of like give a little quick recap. Like, what was the most surprising thing for you guys this week? How about that?
Michael, I'll
The
let you go
Raiders
first.
losing.
I mean, that how is that surprising?
I was expecting them to win against the Titans. The
You
Titans
know what
aren't
sucks?
anything special.
You know what sucks? The Raiders still lost, and Derek Carr got like 7 extra points at the end of the game because he threw a touchdown, and then like whatever, and I lost by exactly 7, like not even 7. It was like 6.8 points in fantasy, and so that's kind of upsetting. The biggest shocker for me, um, I'm kind of split between the Colts and the Chiefs, or the other game, which was the Chargers and the Jaguars, because
I
I
was
don't know if it's
very shocked by the Jags game. I was very shocked by the Jags.
because the Chargers were given 6.5 in that game, and then they lost by 28.
That's true.
But I mean, as far as the Chiefs game goes, the Colts were terrible coming into this because I know that last week when Bryce and I did our power rankings, I did the top 32 and I put the Colts like, I think I put them. If I still have the paper, let me look real quick.
I
I
think you had
still
them
have the
last.
paper. I'm pretty sure that I had them last. Let's look. So I had the Colts second to last, right in front of the Texans, who are still last in our power rankings because they lost to the Bears. But yeah, I mean, the Colts are terrible the first 2 weeks, and then the fact that the Chiefs kind of just imploded and then had no offense in the second half, just, I mean, that was easily. I definitely do lean more towards the Jags game being more surprising, just because Justin Herbert still played. Granted, it was on the broken ribs or whatever, but I mean, you know,
Yeah,
nobody
I
expects the Jags to come into LA and just completely manhandle the Chargers.
you don't expect Jacksonville to come in and beat a team that a lot of people in the preseason had has a Super Bowl potential
Mm-hmm.
team. Like, so it makes 100% reason to be able to put that. My surprise of the week was also the Jacksonville game. Jacksonville defense is looking like not like, obviously I can't say they look like the old Saxonville defense. But they are showing very, very good defensive, just impressing on the defensive side of the ball, and their offense is doing well too. They're hardly allowing any sacks. Um, they're just kind of moving the ball more. Trevor Lawrence already has half the touchdowns this year than he did last year. I'm pretty sure, or maybe no, maybe not half, but he only has one interception at the time. At this time last year, he had 7. Um, so you're definitely seeing him improve a lot more, and I think it's because Doug Peterson's now their coach. That's something that's huge for me.
Do you think that Jacksonville is like a playoff contender if they don't get rid of Jalen Ramsey and Leonard Fournette? Do you think that if they still have Jalen Ramsey and Leonard Fournette, they're like at least somewhat
If they
playoff
still had
contenders?
some key pieces from back when they were good, yes, they would be 100% be contenders.
All right.
Because
I
they have
personally
roles
see
at
them as
quarterback.
contenders right now. Like if they had the same squad that
You
they
have
have
them
right
as
now,
contenders right now.
I
I
think
think
they're
that the Jags
pretenders.
have
I
a
think
full
they're
chance
pretenders.
to make it.
Wow, contenders right now. That's interesting. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I don't necessarily agree with you either.
I okay, yeah,
Like, mm, I mean, looking at where we had them on the consensus, though, it makes sense. All right.
yeah.
Speaking of the consensus, is that where you want to take us next to, Bryce?
That is exactly where I'm going to take us. Starting off with, we're going to go 15 and 16. So what we kind of did is kind of similar to the college football ones. We had us three put our top 16s. We ranked them accordingly. And then I combined the points together, added them all up, whatnot, and ranked them based off of our consensus rankings. So starting off at 16, two of us, me and Cam, had this team at 16. Michael didn't. He had them at 15. It's going to be the Chicago Bears. Now, the Chicago Bears, I put at 16 because their passing game is still non-existent. Justin Fields has completed, I think, 23 passes this entire year, which is not something you want to see from a quarterback, especially even though he is more of a scrambling QB. Still, 23 passes is just not like that. More
Well,
teams completed over 23 passes this week than they did all year. Granted, the first game they did play was like a monsoon, so like they had to run a shit ton. But you don't want to if they can improve their passing game. I definitely wouldn't say they're this low. Um, but I think they're 2-1 still. They don't really have any like big wins. I mean, the win against the Niners wasn't really that big. It was kind of a sloppy game all around. And then the win against the Texans came down to that game-winning field goal. Um, excuse me. Uh,
Bless you.
that was a cough. Thank you.
we Bryce and I had the same discussion earlier. I coughed and he was like, "Well, did you just cough or sneeze?" And I was like, "I coughed." And he said,
Yeah.
"Bless you." So thanks for returning the favor, Michael. But continue on, Bryce, unless you're done.
I didn't really have much to say. I was gonna say is just kind of I liked their run game is dominant. I mean, Khalil Herbert had himself a day. Um, but I like to see more out of them. I think the Bears have potential with a new coach, and just Justin Fields being able to grow.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, personally, go ahead, Cameron. My bad.
So going back to that week 1 win against the Niners, obviously it wasn't very heavy passing game. The field was literally underwater. Don't know why they still played it, but they did because it's Chicago. But other than that, the Bears just haven't looked good, like at all. And Khalil Herbert he's shown upside, but Justin Fields is still just getting destroyed in that backfield. And other than that, their offense just hasn't been producing. Darnell Mooney was like their wide receiver one, has like 2 catches on the year. Just
Or
overall, just haven't looked good. And that's why I have him at 16. The only reason I didn't put him lower, and I could have put like the Lions up here or someone else like maybe the Giants after they just lost, or no, the Giants are on here, aren't they? The Giants aren't on here.
oh,
Did we just skip over the Giants?
nah,
Did we completely skip over the Giants? Well,
I didn't put them on there for a reason.
oh, you
Yeah,
didn't. I would actually, looking back on it, I would replace the Giants with the Bears simply
I did
because
put them on this reason
simply
too.
because the Giants have a better running back and I would say receivers, but
I mean, the receivers drop a lot of passes. Sterling Shepard just got injured for the rest of the year. Kenny Galladay,
yeah.
3 catches on the year or something like that.
I mean,
Um,
I'll leave the Bears where they're at, though. I think the Bears might be better now that Kenny Galladay is out. But I mean, the Bears aren't going to be better if Justin Herbert doesn't figure something out. That's all I've got to say.
Michael.
Yeah, I put the Bears at 15, mainly because one, I am a little biased because, Chicago. They're a Chicago team. We haven't had a win in a while for any sport. But
True.
also just the fact that they are, like you said, Bryce, their passing game, Justin Fields kind of sucks passing, but their rushing game is dominant. Like they're so good at rushing. Like looking at the stats from the Texans game, Texans had 92 rushing yards, and the Bears had almost 300.
Yeah, they're just they're kind of what I like to see is the Philadelphia Eagles when not Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts was kind of developing still as a passer. Um, just a run heavy offense. Now, obviously now Jalen Hurts is being able to sling the rock, but that's what I see in the Bears. I think they have potential to be a good team again and kind of show that potential. So yeah. We're gonna go to 15 now. It's gonna be the Denver Broncos. Um,
I'll start us off with this one. I've got a few choice words for the Broncos.
Right.
Um, Broncos Sunday night. Unfortunately, the only game on television that everyone was forced to watch. The Broncos through 3 games have not looked good,
they
despite
have
their record of two and
they're
one. They have not looked good, and
three
that's
touchdowns in 3 games.
that's all I've got to say about the Broncos. Is that they just have not looked good. Russell Wilson looks like the biggest bank robber in the entire history of the NFL, and that's all I've really got on the Broncos.
What I like to say is people say let Russ cook, but Russ is managing to burn ramen. That's what he's doing when he goes out there. Um,
Yep.
he just doesn't look good. Doesn't look like old Seattle self, his Seattle self. And it's just not fun to watch that team. That team has such good potential and potential to be a playoff contender, and especially with guys like Javante and um, Melvin Gordon. They have so much potential. Their defense is one of the best defenses in the league. Like, and they just can't get it together on offense. Nathaniel
Hmm.
Hackett's not helping either.
Michael.
I don't really have much to say about the Broncos.
Okay.
Fair enough. I mean, there really isn't ever really that much to say about the Broncos.
I
I
mean,
mean,
all I can
they
say
just,
is that they really did get robbed for signing Russell Wilson because he has
yeah.
not lived up to the potential that he should have been when they signed him.
I
So
mean, maybe he will. Maybe he will. Who knows? Still 3 weeks into the
There's
season
yeah, we're still 3 weeks in. You're right, but for as of
so
right
far.
now, the $250 million is the robbery.
Yep.
it is a robbery. We'll move
I
on.
really
On.
hope that he can show up though.
Yeah. On to 14 though.
14, Cam, do you want to introduce the team?
Unfortunately, the other team that you had to watch on Sunday night, being the 49ers. Um, the 49ers are ranked ahead of the Broncos simply because their defense looked a lot better Sunday night, and you have to take into effect that Jimmy G does not know the playbook yet. Um, they plan to trade him all offseason. The whole idea was he was going to get traded. There was a trade set to go through with the
Watch.
Commanders until Jimmy G said, "Screw that, I don't want to play for the Commanders," and then got shoulder surgery. Um, and so now the Niners are left in this situation where like everyone is getting injured. Trey Lance just got hurt. George Kittle just got back. Didn't really have that big of a game against the Broncos. Um, Trent Williams just got hurt. I know that Jimmy Ward is still out. Like the Niners are dealing with a ton of injuries, and it's kind of like the last year's version of the Ravens team. Not as bad, but definitely it stings a lot not having multiple starters, multiple like dudes on that team that are like the guy for the Niners. Obviously, like Trent Williams. But when those guys come back, and when the team is fully healthy, minus Trey Lance in about 4 to 6 weeks, I think that that's where you see the Niners kind of strive. And The Niners actually, I did a little bit of research into it. Have one of the easiest schedules where all the teams that are above 500 that they will most likely play this year are home games, and then they also technically got they lost an away game. They technically have one less away game because of the game in Mexico against Arizona, and so I think that definitely plays a factor in the Niners ranking here.
That's true. My big thing on the Niners is, as you were saying, Jimmy doesn't know the playbook, though he didn't look pretty on there. Um, he's they can definitely improve. I mean, Jimmy G's brought that team to the Super Bowl 3 years ago. He was the quarterback, and then I mean last year NFC Championship. So they can definitely win without great quarterback play. And then also the Broncos, the only reason they won that game is they're one Jimmy G not stepping out of bounds in the end zone,
Yeah,
losing the game.
yeah, from potentially putting a drive together because that was just a big old momentum switch that kind of sent the Broncos to winning it.
And it's like you won't see that very often from a 49ers squad because they're a greatly coached team. So,
Yeah. Anything you got to say on that one, Michael?
I mean, like, Cam, I know you're like a big 49ers fan. And personally, like, I don't really pay attention to the 49ers as much as I should, but I see them as potential. You know.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
okay. Michael, if you'd like to introduce number 13 for us.
Yeah, number 13 is the personally I think the worst team in the the division, but the Chargers.
The worst team, right?
Okay, the worst team. Worse than the 0-3 Raiders?
You don't got to point that out, you know.
But I do. But I do.
Okay.
Um, the Chargers.
Start us off. How about Michael starts us off? Start us off, Michael.
So there may be a bit of bias as I'm talking about the Chargers. You know, they're in the division of the Raiders, and I'm a big Raiders fan. But personally, the Chargers, they're not too disappointing. Justin Herbert is an amazing quarterback. He's something that the Chargers really needed. And just the Chargers overall, like they're not a horrible team. Like they can do good if they, stick up to it. But this defeat against the Jags was very unexpected. I was expecting them to completely destroy the Jags. And the Jags pounded them by 28 points.
Yeah. Is that all you got to say? Or
Yeah, I mean, like, again, not only did Justin Herbert have more yardage in that game than Trevor Lawrence, but he also just really didn't have that much. Like, he had really good passing throughout his whole wide receivers and receivers in general, but just kind of just a disappointing game for Herbert, and I hope to see better.
so I put the Chargers the highest out of everyone here. Only reason I did that is Herbert is playing with whatever, I think rib injury. I
Yeah, it
think
was the cracked ribs.
factor. Yeah, I think it would have been smart if the Chargers would have let him rest for week 3. My fantasy team did not want him to though.
Is that why he started?
Oh
He
yeah,
started. He said Bryce Norwood needs my help in fantasy. And then how many did he drop? Like a dud? Didn't he drop like 10?
No, he did okay, but
17? Fair enough.
yeah, but just once again, he's a guy. Justin Herbert's a generational talent. Not very many tall ass quarterbacks can be that good. You think of the last really tall quarterback I bet you can think of is Brock Osweiler.
Fuck.
It's kind of
Osweiler.
it's kind of interesting to see how they kind of got their ass kicked by Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
But we also don't know. Maybe this Jacksonville team's a new team. I still think I'm still very high on the Chargers still. Last season they were one stupid one non-stupid decision away from making the playoffs. Because Brandon Staley decided to call that timeout against the Raiders in Week 18.
And we unfortunately were forced to watch the Steelers put on what we thought was football against the Chiefs.
Yes. But I don't got much to say about the Chargers except they've got the roster to be that good. Just 8-2, not 8-2, 1-2 right now is just not something that you'd expect from them.
Yeah. And same thing, like you were going off of Justin Herbert definitely should have rested. The doctor that punctured Tyrod Taylor's lungs about a year ago or 2 years ago is the same doctor that was functioning on Justin Herbert. So you obviously might have thought like, well, I don't know, man. Like, should we start him? Whatever. And they did. They still lost to what everybody thought was a much inferior team. They were given 6.5, so they were given about 7 points a touchdown on the Jags, which was kind of crazy to me when I first saw that money line, and I was like, I don't know about that one because the Jags look kind of good, and Justin Herbert when he got hurt against the Chiefs just kind of wasn't. He didn't really look too hot. You might have thought that same Justin Herbert was coming into Week 3. Um, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk too much about the Chargers because the Chargers are their own deal. They've got the talent. They've got the guys. It's just kind of putting it all together. I want to talk about the Jaguars, who are a 12 spot on this list, right above the Chargers.
That's very true.
Rightfully so, after beating the Chargers by 28 in Week 3. The Jags look good. I
They,
won't lie. The Jags are a couple miscues away in Week 1 and losing to the um and losing to the Commanders to being 3-0. Like, and then their wins are dominant wins too. They beat the Colts, they shut out the Colts 24-0. And that Colts team I mean, granted, it's
just in Kansas City, though.
the bigger fish eats the smaller fish, and then the smaller fish eats a smaller fish sort of deal, like a domino effect. The Colts just beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the Jags could maybe beat the Chiefs, but I'm definitely saying that I'm just saying that the Jags I think could go toe to toe with the Chiefs. I think that Doug Peterson is a great coach. He was a great coach in Philadelphia, and I think that he is the perfect coach for the Jags and what the Jags are doing right now. The only thing I wish that the Jags I saw more from was Trayvon Walker, but he is a developmental player. That's a hard word.
Wow,
Developmental player.
that's wild.
But yeah, I think the Jags are good. That's
I
I
that's
guess
my
think out of everyone, I think I had them ranked the highest at 10, if I'm not mistaken. I think you
yes.
guys had them ranked at 12,
At
and I had them ranked at 10.
12, put them at 10. But I know for me, the Jaguars team is very fun to watch now this year. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he was one of the highest ranked NFL prospects. And just Doug Peterson, he's a good coach. I never thought that he should have been fired from the Eagles. I think the Eagles did make a good decision. Now they have a great coach, anyways. But Doug Peterson, I mean, there's a reason he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. He helped kind of build Carson Wentz's play. Then kind of held him back a little bit, but you're starting to see that right now with Trevor Lawrence. He's starting to make Trevor Lawrence a better quarterback. And then their defense is just looking like Saxonville 2.0. That's what I'll say it is. Trayvon Walker had a great week 1. Haven't heard much more, so I'd love to see more from him. But their defense is just killing it right now.
But it's safe to say that Trevor Lawrence has definitely made the jump from last year, right?
Oh, it's safe to say because Trevor Lawrence had 7 interceptions going in the week 4 last year. He has 1 this year. That's really all you got to say about that. And their defense is tied for the most interceptions in the league, I'm pretty sure, with the Baltimore Ravens. So it's like having a defense like that shows a lot.
Yep.
And I'm excited to see how this young Jacksonville team can develop and get better.
Same.
Yeah,
Michael?
also, one thing before we move on, I wanted to say one thing. I think looking at the stats right now, the Jags are the second team in the entire NFL with points allowed. The Broncos are first with 36, and the
They've
Jags are
allowed
at
the least points.
38 points allowed.
Yeah, so they've
Total.
allowed the least amount of points.
Yeah,
They've allowed the second least amount of points behind the Broncos, which is
yeah. The
something that
Broncos
isn't
have
talked about with the
36,
Broncos enough,
and
I
the
guess.
Jags have 38.
Well, we know the Broncos had a good defense.
The Broncos play a team, and
Tampa
the other
Bay is
team is
giving up
the other team
27.
is so threatened by the Broncos offense being so piss poor that they also play piss poor. The
Because you think
opposing team offense.
yeah, Denver's 2-1, but they've only scored 7 more points than their opponents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, what's up, Michael?
Huh?
Are you about to say anything?
No, I'm just like the reason I'm saying this quickly so we can move on as fast as we can. But the Jags, I'm very impressed by them. I see them as total contenders to possibly make it to divisional and maybe win their division overall.
They do have quite a weak division, in my
Yeah, I
opinion.
mean the division isn't too amazing. You know, the Colts again, huge disappointment by them. Titans, you know, of course, the one team they beat is the Raiders. And the Texans, like again, their division isn't too great. There's potential, but they're not going to use it because I just don't see the other teams as anything great besides the Jags.
Yeah. And Jacksonville is leading the division currently as well.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say, I'm pretty sure that Jacksonville's on top.
technically they're the only team with a positive
Win
win-loss ratio
record. Yeah.
besides the Colts, who have won,
Right.
1-1.
What an odd record. I've never seen that before.
I have. Let's move on to the next one, number 11. We're gonna have at number 11 they actually just won last night, the Dallas Cowboys. What's interesting to me is the Cowboys are 2-0 with Cooper Rush this year, and they're 0-1 with Dak Prescott. I'm not trying to say Cooper Rush is better because they
Cooper Rush
obviously
is better.
Cooper Rush has not played a defense like the Buccaneers defense, which is the statistically best in the what the fuck was that?
I see. Sorry.
Now you
Um,
can say bless you, Bryce.
bless you.
That was a
Excuse my
cough.
language, by the way, right there. Just the defenses that Cooper Rush has gone against are not even close to the Buccaneers defense. Dak Prescott did have a terrible game though. He might be coming back this week. Love to see him come back. I mean, this Cowboys
Is
team
he?
with a healthy Dak Prescott, he could come back. With a
I thought,
healthy Dak
yeah.
Prescott, the Cowboys will always make the playoffs.
You think
They
so?
always make the playoffs with a healthy Dak Prescott.
Even without Amari Cooper,
Yes, even
who's
without
been
him,
balling, by the way. Amari Cooper's been balling,
he has been
and
balling. We'll get to him later.
freaking wow. Yeah. Um, Cooper Rush. I mean, it's kind of tough. Like I know that Jerry Jones said that like he wanted to have a quarterback competition in Dallas. I think that they like might, but I think that ultimately Dak ends up with the job. I think that he is like the better, more experienced quarterback. Um, and he does know the quirks of these better defenses and whatnot. As far as our ranking at 11 goes, we ranked them ahead of the Jags just because they have better wide receivers. Their wide receivers aren't overpaid. Their defense is miles better. Um, and I mean they have like the potential defensive player of the year on their team. Like obviously he's the clear favorite now, I believe, now that TJ Watt is out.
Micah Park.
Um, yep.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of why they're as high as they are. Granted, their offense hasn't really looked that flashy. Um, but I mean, they're sitting right outside of the top 10 because these top 10 teams or the teams that have looked really good are are two undefeated teams and I think that all of these teams are 2-1
2-1 or
except
3.
for or yeah,
The Eagles.
Eagles and Dolphins who are 3-0.
yeah. So all these teams are 2-1. So that concludes our outside of the top 10, and I'll let Michael introduce us to the 10th team on our list.
Number 10. Well, I mean, technically they were tied. They were tied technically, right?
But the
Number
Cowboys,
D.
Yeah, but we put this other team ahead
we put
because
we put this other team ahead because they were ranked higher than the Cowboys in 2 of the 3 lists.
Okay, then that makes sense. Okay, yeah, cool. That makes sense.
yeah.
So, number 10, we have the Browns.
Okay. So, Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns, 2-1. Doing a lot better than a lot of people expected, especially because Jacoby Brissett's the quarterback. I'm not dissing on Jacoby. I think he's a pretty decent quarterback. He's not a
I think
starter.
Jacoby's really good.
Sad to see that um Miles Garrett got in the car crash. Um, but they're still a good team. They've got a roster. I mean, Amari Cooper, as we were saying, was looking incredible so far.
Mhm.
It just they're a team that once Deshaun comes back, if Deshaun comes back like how he was, they're going to be dangerous. Um, I don't have much to say about the Browns. I got more to say about the other teams. So you guys want to
Yeah,
take it?
I'll take it. I'll take the Browns. So the Browns are it's interesting right now because if Jacoby Brissett can lead the Browns to, I think that he can lead them to a 5-5, or like slightly around there 4-5, 6-4 record before Deshaun comes back, which will be in week 12 because their bye week is
13. It'd be week 13.
okay. So they would play 11 games. So I think if he can lead them to above 500 or slightly around there, I think that the Browns will be in really good shape to make a late playoff push, because I think that getting Deshaun back obviously is going to make their team better. They're going to get a mobile quarterback, and Amari Cooper will definitely thrive. And I think that right now the reason the Browns have had their success is because of Jacoby Brissett outperforming what people thought he was going to play like. That and the Browns defense, especially their defensive line, Miles Garrett. Obviously, he just got into a car accident, unfortunately. Prayers up to him. He is not, I believe I read it was non-life threatening. However, there were some serious injuries. Um, not not like that serious. I don't think that he'll miss more than 2 weeks if it does miss time, but he definitely. I mean, he did just get into a car accident that was rolled. Thankfully he was avoiding an animal on the road. So I mean, shout out to that deer, I guess. I mean, Browns fans now have another thing to get mad at besides masseuses. But the Browns are, like I said, they're just interesting. I think that it's really dependent on if they are able to sit around 500, if they'll make the playoffs or not. But
Yeah.
Michael, I'll pass it on to you.
The Browns, I completely forgot where I had them ranked. Hold on 1 second.
You have them at number 9.
Yeah, the Browns, I mean, like they have really good potential. Like they're a really good team. Like I see them doing really good.
Shout out
But
Trey Wilson.
yeah, but again, they've also gone against pretty easy teams so far this year.
True.
And the easiest team of them all, they lost to.
Okay.
Well, the just made a good comeback. Joe Flacco is just better than Jacoby Brissett. Simple as that.
I can
All right.
understand why you would say that. I do think
Joe
that
Flacco.
the worst team that they did play was the Steelers. The Steelers played the worst against them. But y'all ready to move on to number 9?
Yeah. I'll let,
Number
I'll let
9
go ahead, Bryce.
is the Minnesota Vikings. So we put the Minnesota Vikings because they're 2-1. They had a little. I wouldn't say their win last week was impressive against the Lions. It was still a win. Obviously, a win is a win. great. They did have a great comeback. I believe they were down by 10 at one point. Ended up winning the game by 4. But the Lions gave them a run for their money, and that's the team. The Lions, they're a lot better than 1 and 2. None of us put them in our top 16s because they are 1 and 2. There's a lot more teams that are better than the Lions right now. But I know I shouldn't really be talking about the Lions that much, but I'm a big Dan Campbell guy, so I'm going to talk about that. But Justin Jefferson was kind of locked in a box by Jeff Okuda. That's not something you want to see. Him talking in the preseason, being like, "Oh, talking all this shit," like, "Oh, I understand why Cooper Kupp was always open under the new offense," and he's not really proven it. He's had one game. He's had one good game. The other 2 games, he's been locked up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I think their team needs to focus on is kind of. I mean, obviously, Kirk did a good job getting everybody involved since Justin Jefferson was getting locked up. And I mean, they have great running backs with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison, who's probably one of the better RB2s in the league. But Dalvin Cook is hurt again. That's something that he needs to work on is stop getting hurt every week.
Yep.
But Alexander Madison, as I just said, great guy to come in and step up. He is somebody that I would want as my backup running back, especially since my backup running back on my team fumbles the ball at the 8-yard line, Mark Ingram. But the Vikings squad, their defense, they have a lot of like big names on their defense. I don't know how their defense is doing though. Their defense is probably middle of the pack. Okay, never mind. They're doing pretty good. But their offense is something that needs to be able to generate more points to win games. They could have won that game against Philly if they scored more than 7.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Vikings are the only thing the Vikings are really missing is just a good offensive scheme. They've got the talent. They've got Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen. They got the new head coach. Their defense is still good. I mean, their kickers aren't that good, but that's besides the point. That's besides the point. They're just missing a good scheme that involves Justin Jefferson more because Justin Jefferson is arguably the best receiver in the league when he is involved in an offense.
They have a good scheme. It's just they need to learn how to execute the scheme.
Yeah.
Michael?
Anything on the Vikings, Michael?
Oh no, I've been muted this whole time.
Oh, that's not good.
I mean the Vikings, like they're just impressive, when you think about the Vikings, you just think about like, wow, they used to suck.
Yep.
And now when you think about the Vikings, you're like, wow,
They're kind of good.
They're out in our rankings. I mean, they're 8 in our rankings. Like last year, you wouldn't have thought about that at all. You would have thought like, oh, the Vikings are out of the postseason already, and it's the second game.
Yeah, true. We're gonna go on to number 8.
Team that beat the Vikings, or the team that lost the Vikings.
Team that lost the Vikings, yet we put them up there. Is the Green Bay Packers. Reason the Green Bay Packers were put at 8 over the Vikings is, despite losing to the Vikings, I think the Green Bay still has a better team. Aaron Rodgers always has his fluke week 1 games, just like last year when he lost 38-3 to New Orleans. He lost, I don't remember the score, but he got his ass whooped.
Bad.
They had a very promising defensive win, in my opinion, against Tampa Bay. And that's it. They're starting to look more and more like the original, like the actual Packers, with their win against Chicago by 17 in week 2, and then the 2-point conversion stop against Tampa. Green Bay they're going to be themselves still, no matter who, excuse me, no matter who, that was a cough. No matter who their wide receivers are, they still got Aaron Rodgers, they still got Aaron Jones, they still got A.J. Dillon, arguably the best backfield in the league behind Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, who
I would say better.
didn't even freaking talk about when we talked about the Browns. Completely forgot about those guys. Green Bay is going to be Green Bay. Matt LaFleur is a winning coach in the regular season. A winning coach in the regular season. And their defense should be a lot better than they have been.
They haven't really shown it yet.
That defense,
They showed it a little bit last week,
they
but
have it.
that was against Tom Brady with throwing to old ass white dudes who should have retired years ago, like Scotty Miller and Cole Beasley.
I wouldn't say
And maybe not Scotty Miller. Cole Beasley definitely like. I mean, you got Tom Brady throwing to Cole Beasley as his like wide receiver too. Like that. That's telling you something. But the Packers looked really good against the Bucks. Um, the defense definitely showed out. The Packers run game was not there on Sunday. Nor was really the passing game. It was kind of a, like you said, a defensive led game. And that's kind of like the only takeaway that you can take from that game, because obviously the Bucks were missing they were missing Chris Godwin, Michael Evans, and Julio Jones. It was just, just a defensive led game. That's all I've really got on that game. And the Packers in that sense.
Yeah, the Packers for me, the again like it's the Packers. You think about the Packers, they're always gonna somehow make it to the postseason. And to be honest, the game against the Bears is always the same. The Packers will always dominate the Bears because it's what pretty much always happens no matter what. And that game was just a blowout by the Packers. The Bears
Yeah.
had a total 230 yards. The Packers had over 400.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna head on to we're gonna actually do 7 and then 6 and then 5. We're gonna try and keep them a little flowing. For number 7, we have the Los Angeles Rams, the defending champs. Good win against Arizona
Bad
this past
execution.
week. Their defense really kind of bottled up Kyler Murray wanting to run the ball, which is what your game plan should be when you're going against Kyler Murray, is bottle that man up. Do not let him.
Did you guys see the thing where it said that Kyler Murray kind of looks like a toddler who stole his mom's phone when he's running the
Yes,
ball? I saw that and I can't unsee it now.
yes. But the Rams, obviously, they've got Cooper Kupp. Stafford still dealing with a little bit of an injury from the preseason, but he's not looking as bad as he was against Buffalo the week 1. I don't think this team is as good as the Super Bowl winning team last year. They're still a good team. I don't see them winning coming out of the NFC. But I don't got much to say about the Rams other than their defense. I love their defense always because of Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey only. That's 2 players that are crucial to have on a team. I just think the way Matt Stafford has been playing is not Super Bowl worthy. Although he did lead the league in interceptions last year and they won the Super Bowl, I just don't think he's playing up to that caliber again.
Jalen Ramsey has been getting kind of cooked this year, I won't lie. I think that Jalen Ramsey is definitely taking a step back from last year and the years prior. He was non-existent against the Bills in Week 1, nor was really Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald was also non-existent in that Week 1 win, or the Week 1 loss, sorry. And I mean, you've got arguably 2 of the best defensive players in the NFL, as well as one of the best defensive-minded coaches in the NFL, in Sean McVay, and yet they're still out here giving up, a comeback, almost breaking the curse. The Falcons in Week 2, and then letting the Cardinals kind of hang around late in that game last week, or just a couple days ago on Sunday. And I think that that's kind of what has been the deciding factor in a lot of these games for the Rams is, if they're able to come up with the big turnover there in the end, and that's what they've been able to do in both of their wins. Jalen Ramsey against the Falcons, and then oh God, who was it against the Cardinals? I can't remember who it was against the
I
Cardinals,
don't
but that's
remember
kind of been
either.
that's kind of been the deciding factor in a lot of those games, and I think that Sean McVay is a better coach than that. I think that he needs to be putting up more points. Um, I mean, obviously they're not putting up that many points because their entire scheme is literally just through Cooper Cup. It's kind of annoying because like whenever you play against him in fantasy, the dude guarantees like 35 points. Um, but that's all I've got on the Rams. The Rams are definitely a Super Bowl contender still in my mind, as much as it pains me to say it.
Okay, Michael, you got anything on the Rams?
You know, I mean, when they won the Super Bowl, like everyone was like, okay, people really wanted the Bengals to win. But when this year started, everyone was like, I felt really disappointed because of that first loss that they had. And coming off of a Super Bowl win, you would expect them to do better.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree with that. I think that I mean, I think that there's a little bit of slack cut out for them though with playing against the Super Bowl favorites this year. Obviously I don't think that they should get destroyed like they did against the Bills. But that's what happened and I mean, you know, first game of the season. I mean, Matthew Stafford was dealing with arm issues though, like, you know.
Yeah.
But
Um,
moving on from the Rams,
Cam, you can get us
we
number 6.
we have another good team, a team without much offense this last week.
Yep.
I believe that they were no, they weren't. But no wide receivers on this team. They're still ranked above the Packers and the Rams. And I want to ask you, Bryce, why that is. Why are the Buccaneers ahead of the Rams and the Packers, even though they just lost to the
Um,
Packers?
you know me, I'm a Saints fan, so I hate the Bucks. But as much as I do hate to say this, Buccaneers are a better, well-rounded team. They've got the best defense in the league right now. Tom Brady's looking old though, kind of showing that he needs those wide receivers to succeed in Tampa.
Old and ugly.
Um, but Tampa's still a good team. You can never doubt Tom Brady because he is the greatest football player to ever touch the planet. Ever touch the planet.
I don't know,
Um,
man. Michael Vick was kind of good. No, I'm teasing. Can you imagine if
yeah,
somebody actually said Michael Vick was the greatest player of all time?
Derek Carr.
okay. Well, we knew you were going to say that. The Bucks, just the fact that they've given up 27 points this entire season, or the most points they have given up was last week when they gave up 14. 2 touchdowns is a lot of points for their defense right now. Like that's insane. This defense is incredible. This defense is legit. With normal Tom Brady, fully healthy offense, this team is an NFC favorite over the Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion. I hate to say it because I don't like the Bucks, but the Bucks, in my opinion, fully healthy, are NFC favorites, and we will see them Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl this year.
Whoa. Big accusation there, Bryce.
I'm done saying my piece on the Bucks.
Go ahead, Cam.
Bucks,
Yeah.
Bucks. Tom Brady doesn't look good. Um, you can kind of see his face bones a little bit more. Now that he's getting a little bit older. I don't know what happened because he looked really good last year and he looked a lot happier last year. But I think that now that you got the Buccaneers kind of going through some rougher patches of time this year, he doesn't look as good. You know, he's obviously got his personal issues outside of football. Um, but other than that, the Bucks, given their wide receivers, still have a top defense in the league. They still have a top offense in the league. They still have a top offensive line in the league, and they still have a top running back in the league who they got for free from the Jags. And that's why the Bucks are at
If
6.
you draft him 4th overall,
What?
nothing. Continue.
Yeah. And that's why the Bucks are still 6 above the Rams. Because I believe that the Bucks, when they have an actual wide receiver, are obviously going to win more or put up more offense than what they put up just last Sunday against a fully healthy Packers team.
Yep.
Moving on to number 5, though, they just lost after imploding on themselves to Matt, Ryan, and the Colts. The
Who is
Chiefs
it?
lost 20-17 this last week. There are 5 on our list. Michael, I'll let you start this one off.
One
What?
five, man.
Let's start
Start
off
off
on the
with
Chiefs.
Kansas City.
The Chiefs are ranked 5th.
Yes.
They are 1 point below the other team in 4th. Tell us a little bit about the Chiefs, how you feel about them, why we have them at 5 even after losing to the Colts.
I mean, Chiefs, these past couple years, they've just been, dominant. Even though they lost the Colts, which was not really that expectant, the Chiefs are still such a dominant team that you cannot really expect anything but greatness from them. I mean, Patrick
That's a good one.
Mahomes still throwing just over 250 yards and 20 passes, 20 complete passes. And in the Colts game, like Patrick Mahomes is still one of the best players. He might be an MVP contender, in my opinion. But personally, I believe that goes to the quarterback. The MVP this year should go to the quarterback of the next team that we're gonna talk about.
Oh,
Whoa. Okay.
well,
Interesting take.
interesting take.
We'll continue on the Chiefs for a second, and then I'll let Michael introduce us to the next team because he feels so highly about them.
Is this?
Um,
Whoa, whoa,
the
whoa! Hold
Chiefs.
on, hold up.
I'm not going. Not yet. Not
This,
yet. Not
this
yet. Not yet.
podcast,
Not
this.
yet. I'm not. I know. I know. I want to cover the Chiefs.
I'm
I
just
know you
messing
want
with
to
you. I'm
too.
just messing
I
with
know.
you.
I know. I know. I'm just letting Michael know that he gets to cover the next team because apparently he thinks that the next team's got an MVP on it. The Chiefs kind of blew up on themselves. They had the big win against the Chargers in prime time uh, last 2 Thursdays ago. Um, that was obviously a big win. Um, Chiefs versus Colts. I I'm I'm really at a loss of words. At the beginning of this podcast episode, I said that that was one of the most surprising games for me. I did take the Chargers game over this one as being the most surprising, but the reason why this one's surprising is because the Chiefs were supposed to win this one, and the Colts had no offense going. JT has looked sloppy all year. Matt Ryan is old. The Chiefs are young. The Chiefs have young wide receivers. The Chiefs have a very young, good defense, and all of that. They kind of like flipped roles. Like Matt Ryan was like slinging the ball like nobody's business on Sunday, and that's kind of why the Chiefs lost that game. Um, they also didn't have Harrison Butker, which impacted them a little bit. I mean Amendola. Obviously, you think that he's gonna come in and be like, he's a kicker or whatever. Danny Amendola sucks. I'm not gonna lie.
He does
Or
suck.
not Danny. Is it? I'm mixing up the wide receiver. It's Danny Amendola, right?
Danny Amendola is the wide receiver.
I'm thinking of Matt Amendola then. Sorry, my apologies.
You're
Matt
okay.
Amendola sucks. And Matt Amendola can't hit a field goal. And I think that the Chiefs are going to drop him and pick up a different kicker because Matt Amendola was a sole reason why the Chiefs lost this game because they trotted out the offense on 4th down and like 5, 4th down and 3, like a couple times during this game because Matt Amendola could not kick a field goal. And that's why the Chiefs lost this game. And Bryce, I'll pass it over to you to conclude the Chiefs segment.
Okay. I really like the Chiefs. Still, I had them at 4 in my rankings. Michael also did. Cam, you had them at 7. Uh, every team's gonna drop a game. Not it's hard to go 17-0. I mean, there's a reason we've only seen one undefeated champion in the entire history of the NFL. Every team's gonna have an off game. I think Kansas City, this was their main off game of their season this year. Uh, Mahomes is Mahomes. I mean, he threw his first interception in 3 weeks, and that's what lost the game. And it wasn't really even his fault. Maybe it was ball wasn't placed correctly, but the ball was also tipped off of his off the pass catcher's hand. I don't remember who it was. But I mean, to say that I didn't enjoy watching the Chiefs lose would be wrong. I loved seeing them lose because it's always interesting to see the Chiefs lose. But they're a great team with a better pass rush. I remember talking about it on one of my older episodes. I think during the preseason, how the Chiefs' pass rush was going to be better this year, and it is. Um, but I'm excited to see how they bounce back from it. They've got the best tight end in the league, arguably the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league. And this Chiefs team is definitely a team you don't want to start overlooking now just because they lost to the Indianapolis Colts, who have a pretty decent defense who hasn't really shown up first 2 weeks until now.
Yeah.
They're just a team that the Chiefs are just the Chiefs. They've been successful every single year. So you can't rule them out.
Yep. So moving on to number 4, Michael, I believe that you wanted to talk about this team a little bit.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Number 4, the Ravens. Personally, I love the Ravens. They're a really good team, and like I said in the last team, Lamar Jackson. This man is a machine of many talents. I mean, they lost against the Dolphins. So what? They're the best team in the AFC. They're arguably maybe the best team in the whole NFL currently. But right now, everything that Lamar has shown in 2 games, because he didn't play against the Commanders, has been exhilarating. Like, it's been amazing. 300 yards plus over 100 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns in the last game against the Dolphins, and 4 touchdowns in the first game that they had against the Patriots. Like, he's dominating. I truly think he's the underdog MVP this year.
I wouldn't say he's an underdog, but I'd say he is definitely an MVP favorite, alongside the quarterbacks for teams 1, 2, and 3, which we won't get to yet. We'll talk a little bit more about the Ravens. I think Lamar is looking incredible, leads the league in passing touchdowns and passer rating, and is 4th in rushing yards.
Because
Dude
Tua
lost
leads the league in
contract.
passing yards now, doesn't he?
Who?
Tua leads the league in passing yards now,
It is
doesn't he?
Josh Allen right now.
It is who?
Josh Allen just took it back over.
Oh, okay.
But Lamar, he wants his contract. Give
Yep.
this man money. If Russell Wilson's getting $250 million, this dude should get $300 million.
More.
Because this dude is a top. He's showing everybody, I am him. I'm him. I'm that guy. And he is. I mean, last game, I think it was 5 touchdowns he had. He's incredible. He's thrown for over an average 3.3, 3-4 touchdowns a game. That's throwing. And he's a dual threat, too. He's the best dual threat quarterback in the league. And he's starting to look like MVP Lamar again. In their 2-1, with their only loss being a choke job against the number 2 team on our rankings, which that kind of gives it away, but I don't really care. Cameron, you got a little quick thing you want to say about Baltimore before you go on to number 3?
Baltimore's looked really good. Lamar, everybody was always like, he's a running back, can't throw. Lamar last season proved that he can throw, and then he came right into this season and said, screw all of you, I can throw even better. Lamar Jackson has been throwing the ball like incredibly well. Like he's been throwing the ball like he's been a pocket passer his whole life, and then he has the ability to move around, and he's the quickest quarterback in the entire league. Like, the Ravens have a lot of good things going for him. You take out the choke job, which Lamar did nothing wrong in. I think the Lamar is an MVP favorite too. The choke job where Lamar did nothing wrong in. Obviously, maybe he could have put together like a extra touchdown drive or whatever. But Lamar scored. It was 38 points for them that game, and the defense unfortunately just ended up giving up 41 to the fastest wide receiver duo in the NFL. Other than, I mean, the Ravens just I don't know. No one's been calling them Super Bowl favorites, which is kind of surprising to me. I think it's because a lot of people don't like Lamar. I don't think that a lot of people don't think that Lamar can lead a Super Bowl team.
Yep.
I disagree with those people. I think that Lamar is a great quarterback, probably a better quarterback than all these people are fans of.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that the Ravens have the power and the men, if they don't get injured like they did last year, to make a Super Bowl run. And I wouldn't be too surprised. However, that can all get spoiled because two of our top three teams
Are also AFC
are
teams.
also AFC teams. However, this next team is not. We're talking about the best team in the NFC right now. Kind of by a long shot too. The Eagles have looked really good. The
Hey,
Eagles.
Before
Uh,
before you continue going on, I just want to say I messed up in the last game. I said the Commanders, and I realized that that was preseason. I just realized
oh
that was preseason, not actual. So it was the game against the Jets. That was the actual season, and same thing. Lamar dominated. So yeah, my
yeah.
bad.
No, we gotcha. We caught your drift. But on to the next team though. The Eagles, the best team in the NFC, in my opinion, the best team according to the average of all three of us in the NFC. The Eagles had the best offseason. They haven't even used Jordan Davis yet, really. Jordan Davis has kind of been like a he's kind of been on the sidelines. I mean, he's still
Still
going
the
through his
highest,
developmental stuff or whatever, but
still the highest rated defensive tackle as a rookie. A rookie defensive tackle.
yeah, he hasn't really been talked about that much. Um, and I mean, they've got a good defensive line. They've got an even better secondary. Darius Slay owns Justin Jefferson and the offensive side of the ball. You have the best running game as well as one of the best passing games. The Eagles are my favorite team to win the Super Bowl this year. I
Wow.
think the Eagles are really good. And
All right.
I don't think that there's a team that can really stop them
Well,
unless it's like the Lions or something like that. But I don't think the Lions are going to make the playoffs. So I think the Eagles will. That's my prediction. My way too early Super Bowl prediction is the Eagles.
that's very interesting. But um, in the great words of Lee Corso, not so fast. All right, not so fast. The Eagles are good, but they have played the Lions, the
Oh, you're gonna bring
Commanders,
they played
and the
these
Vikings.
teams.
The Vikings are the best team they've played, and the Vikings looked terrible when they played them. Now, is that because Kirk Cousins was in prime time? Most likely, yeah. Um, I think that right now they are the NFC favorites, but as I said, a fully healthy Bucks team is probably better than this Philly team.
You
Um,
think
Jalen
so?
Hurts, in my opinion, is second for MVP right now. He's
Fine.
shown that he can sling the. We'll get to that.
Oh,
Showing he can sling the rock, and he still can run. I mean, AJ Brown, the acquisition. But Cameron, you know me. The first episode we ever did, rebuild or retool, and I just kept on talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. I was
yep.
like, they are a team to look out for. This is a team that's going to be good. Do not be surprised if they give the Cowboys a run for their money for the division. And I mean,
I
right now,
think.
look at them. They're number
It,
3 in our rankings.
yep, and I think the Eagles will wind up winning the NFC East. I think that if the Eagles don't get the bye in the first round of the playoffs, they are definitely going to be a second or third seed team in the NFC. Michael, what do you have on the Eagles for us?
Again, like the Vikings last year, you thought about the Eagles, nothing too special came to mind. But this year, it's like, whoa, why is this team doing so good all of a sudden? And why are they ranked third? Like the Eagles are like, it's just a huge surprise, but everything that they've shown so far has been promising. But like Cameron said, I mean, like Bryce said, they've gone only against probably really bad teams. And the best team was the Vikings, and the Vikings did not show up to that game.
Kirk Cousins in prime time is terrible. Um, yeah, I agree with you there. Um, I do think that the strength of schedule, the Eagles have like one of the easier strengths of schedule. I believe that they've got. I believe the Eagles. Every team from the NFC East had an easy schedule. I think that they had the 4 easiest schedules in the NFL this year.
Yes, they did.
Obviously, that was preseason. Not going off of the power rankings or the sorry, not the power rankings, the official rankings, like stats and all that shit included. That was posted the after last year's Super Bowl win, and so the Eagles have one of the easier schedules because they do play in the NFC East, where the teams aren't really that good. And I think that that's just my take.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Bryce,
gonna.
I'll let you take over.
Yeah, because it is my podcast. I'm just kidding. I appreciate you for doing it. As you can tell in my voice, I'm a little recovering from a little bit of a feeling a little sick. So I do appreciate Cam for you kind of taking over some parts where you can tell like I can't really talk. Um, but anyways, Michael, we're gonna have you introduce number 2, and then I will introduce number 1. Um, these two teams I will say are the same division, AFC East. If you can't tell by now, they just played each other. Michael, get it started.
So number 2 by 1 point. The NL ranking, this was a 1 point difference. I think it was 46 for this team and 47 for the other
47.
team. Is the Dolphins. The Dolphins, we have it second by 1. And to be honest, they've shown that throughout this whole season. They've shown they came to play, they came to fight, and the trades that they made were are really showing some good promise.
Hell yeah.
Like everything that they've done so far for rushing, passing, kicking, everything is every literally anything that they've done has been impressive. The game against the Ravens, one of the best games of the year, in my opinion, so far. I think it might be the game of the year because that game was just back and forth, constant and constant, rushing, playing, touchdowns, scoring, and just a lot of good in that game came out from the Ravens and the Dolphins.
Yes. But what I have to say about the Dolphins, I want to kind of speed this up because I've got
Oh
somewhere to be
shit,
soon.
you've got class.
Yeah, we'll be fine. Dolphins, I put them at number 1 just because they beat the Bills last week. I think the Dolphins, even with a concussed Tua, they still won. Their defense is incredible. Tua, when he's healthy, has done very well. He's proven to a lot of people that he can be a quarterback for a good team. And they've got the best wide receiver duo in the league right now with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And they've got pretty good running backs too. I mean, Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, even though he's kind of older, they're being pretty good. It's really all
That
I got to
dude's
say about the Dolphins.
fast.
I think they were one. I think they're one. Obviously, my two colleagues, my two friends didn't agree.
I think the Bills are just overall. I think the Bills have a better team.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that we're gonna see another Bills Dolphins game later down the road. In Buffalo, I think it'll be a little bit colder. I don't think that those guys, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, are gonna want to run around as much, and I think that you're gonna have to see Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds run the ball more, and I think that that's where the true flaw in this Dolphins team is. And so I think that that's why I see the Bills as better because I think that the Bills have a better run game.
Okay. And yeah, if you guys have not figured out, the Buffalo Bills are our number 1 in the rankings by 1 point over Miami.
Yep.
Despite losing to Miami, Cameron did mention to me earlier before the podcast started, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer both did not play, and those are two all pro caliber safeties. Also losing a guys like Ed Oliver. They've got my MVP front runner and Josh Allen. They've got the second best receiver in the league this season, and probably best actually this season in Stephon Diggs.
So far, yeah. So far, Stephon is the number 1 receiver.
Their 2 and 3 are good too with Gabe Davis and
when he's healthy.
Isaiah McKenzie. That's just they're and Devin Singletary is getting involved now too, and that just makes them even more dangerous.
Yep.
They're gonna be the number 1 seed in the AFC in my opinion. And the Bills are my Super Bowl favorites. I
I
know
think
you were saying the Eagles were yours. The Bills are my Super Bowl favorites.
I am hoping that we get an Eagles Bills Super Bowl. I think
The,
that that would be a lot of fun. I think that that would be.
not
I don't think that that would be like a one day. You know how the Super Bowl's like like the couple days leading up to it are like kind of cool or whatever, but like nobody really cares because it's just like a bunch of rich people doing like rich shit or whatever and like whatever the place it is that they're holding the Super Bowl. I think that this game will be like a month-long party for football fans if we get Bills Eagles. But
Right.
that's where I'm gonna end it up. Michael, I'll let you finish up what you want to say about the Bills and Eagles, and then Bryce, I'll let you close us out.
Yeah, and just to mention, the Bills and Dolphins, they play again on the 18th of December, so 3 months is the next time that they play.
Okay.
And Bills, I mean, what more can you say about the Bills? Everything that they've shown so far is just promise, just beyond promise. Every person they have on their team is just amazing, just incredible what they've done, and just you know they're special. They're really good. They're definitely a favorite for a lot of people.
Okay. Yeah. One thing I'm gonna point out as well is like last year. You look at it last year, when the Patriots went into Buffalo that one game and beat Buffalo. And everybody was like, "Oh, are the Patriots gonna win the AFC East?" And I mean, eventually the Buffalo Bills did pull it out, and win the game and win the division and get the what 2 seed or some junk like that. I don't remember. 3 seed, 4 seed. So they're a good team. I think they're kind of in the same situation this year. Like, oh, the Dolphins beat them. Are the Dolphins going to win the division? Um, but anyways, yeah, there's our top 16. We got the Bills at first, Dolphins at second, Eagles at third, for the top three. We're gonna wrap it up here. I've got a class to go to, but I had a great time talking to you guys. Great time having you guys on here. Um, I'm hoping we can do some more soon. Talk some more NFL, not just rankings, just talk NFL.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe next week we'll come back and talk about the
Next week.
games.
Yeah, we can talk about the games next week, but I know later this week, I will be having an episode come out, college football, just kind of giving predictions for the next week's games, talking a little bit about last week's games, reiterating our top 25s that we put out before the last week's games. And I want to thank everybody for listening. This one was quite a long one, too. I believe this one was around 70-ish minutes, which wasn't as long as our college football one, but it still was long. We just had a
Yeah.
lot of stuff, lot more knowledge. They have a lot more knowledge in the NFL than they do college football, so it's kind of easier for us to go on and talk more about it. Anyways, I appreciate everybody staying along. Make sure to, if you're listening to this on YouTube, like and comment, subscribe, and if you're listening to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, thank you for listening. Make sure you listen to the rest of them.
Nose.
Make sure to reach out to Tello Talk Podcast on Instagram with any ideas. If you want to be on the show, whatever, Bryce will handle all that for you guys. And
So
yeah,
my Instagram is going to be Tello Talks Sports.
oh, you changed it.
It's been that on Instagram for quite a while. I'm trying to change it back. I think somebody took the username. But that's all I've really got to say. Like Cameron said, just hit me up if you want to be on the podcast, if you have any ideas, because I'll be open for them. And that's going to be it for today. Thank you all for tuning in, and Tello is going to be out.